So today I have a word that's kind of a branch off of the word I put out last about how the enemy attacks at specific times. So the Lord's been kind of developing this word since yesterday with me. He's been giving me little bits and pieces and getting me to do note taking and things like that. Normally I don't do that. I literally just record off the cuff and I just flow and the Holy Spirit just gives me what to say. I don't prepare or anything like that. But because this one here, he wants to be kind of like a little bit of a teaching video, kind of like how the last one was. On the last one, I was teaching about the Hebrew calendar information. He wants these to be videos or words that people can go back to later, or those that are just on the journey now come across and can learn and have extra information based off of, and or those who come new to the journey that they can easily access this information. So like I mentioned in the last video, so that they don't have to go through countless months of attacks with, no knowledge, right? Because knowledge is power. And the Bible says my people perish for a lack of knowledge. So so that's correct. As long as we're walking around this planet with a lack of knowledge in anything, we are not as powerful as if we have the knowledge in that thing, right? So my last video and this video, the Lord wants to make knowledgeable, educational, so that perhaps it could help either someone that's currently on the journey or someone that may come onto the journey. These words are timeless. They apply today, they apply next month, they apply 2 years from now, right? Whenever the time frame is that you come across. But anyway, so today he wants to talk about times the enemy attacks stronger and the 7 deadly sins. So like I said, it's kind of a little bit more part 2 to the last one that I put out, but the last word was like a half an hour, and I'm gonna be honest, this one here might be a half hour as well. I don't know why he's giving me such long words lately, but he is, and these are very informative, so it's important. So all Christians should be made aware of the 7 deadly sins, right? We should know the 10 commandments. We should know the 7 deadly sins. Like, these are just basic fundamentals to the journey to the Christian walk, right? But he's saying that, yes, there are some people that tune into my channel that are kind of on the level I'm at, or maybe a little bit ahead, or maybe a little bit behind, right? And that whether you are where I'm at or more advanced, or you're behind, like just starting or wherever you may be, that knowing the 10 commandments and the 7 deadly sins never goes out of style. It's classic to know, right? These are things and ways that, like, we need to follow the 10 commandments to obey the Lord, but we also need to be aware of the 7 deadly sins so we can be aware of how Satan attacks us on a day-to-day basis. Because I'm telling you right now, guaranteed, as Christian as you may be, you're falling into these 7 deadly sins, either on a daily basis or a weekly basis, perhaps unintentionally even, but these are the 7 deadly sins, meaning that the wages for these sins are technically death. So make sure that you are, and of course Jesus came and saved us from that fate, but my point is, these are sins that you need to be repenting for, right? And you could be committing these sins without even realizing you're committing them. And again, these seem so basic, but the Lord's telling me, like, that these sins are even more prevalent in 2023, like today's day and age, than maybe ever before, right? Due to social media. We have access to these 7 deadly sins more now than ever. And as we're advancing through the years, we're accessing them at a higher and higher increased rate. So the Lord is saying that there's those who are unbelievers still in the world, obviously committing these 7 deadly sins. Some of them unintentionally, they're not even aware these are deadly sins. And then he's saying that's not just it. There's Christians, there's believers that pray to him every day that are righteous people, but yet they too are still committing these 7 deadly sins. And to be honest, even I myself, I am guilty of committing some of these 7 deadly sins. So that's why he wants me to put out this message, is so that whether you're new to the faith or you're very advanced in your walk with the Lord, this would serve as a good reminder to you, right? That just brush up on knowing these 7 deadly sins and being aware of them, and not to do them, and that if you do them, to repent for it, right? Because the Lord forgives. But yeah, so anyways, on with it. So first he wants me to start with the times that the enemy attacks stronger, okay? So I forgot to mention the last word, but I should have. But he also, after I finished the video, he's like, you should have mentioned about the moons. And again, as I was saying last video, when it comes to believers and Christians, we don't like pay any attention to the moon cycles. You know, they're irrelevant. They don't mean anything to us, right? But the enemy, the witchcraft, the Satanists, they use the moon cycles. They actually conduct pretty much everything they do on a day-to-day, weekly, monthly basis based off of the moon cycles. They choose when they're going to be performing certain acts, when they're going to, you know, try to attack stronger and things like that, all based off of the moon cycles, right? So I don't know a lot about that because I personally have never done that. I've never entertained the moon cycles. I've never tried to attack people. So therefore, don't quote me. I'm not the best source of information on it. But he just wanted me as a little side note to mention that mark on your calendars, circle the dates when there's the full moon and when there's the new moon. And it's the strongest when it's the day of. They will put out do their attacks and acts against you just before the full moon hits, and then just before the new moon hits. So just say the full moon's going to be on the 5th of the month this month, just say, or next month, whenever it is. I'm just using an example. They will put the attack out on, say, the 30th, 31st, 1st of the month, about 4 days-ish before the day of the full moon. And then their plan is to have the attack go out, and they're going to use the full moon's energies to heighten that attack on you. So don't be surprised if you're feeling attacked about, I'd say, 5 days before the actual full moon hits. And then obviously it's supposed to anticipate all the way up to the full moon. So get stronger and stronger up till the day of the actual full moon. Then the day before, the day of, and the day after, those 3 days surrounding the full moon day, that's supposed to be when it's supposed to hit you the hardest. And then it doesn't work, right? So therefore it doesn't hit you like they think it will. So then about maybe it starts, so it's like it reaches a climax, right? And then it starts to come down after that. So then it comes down after the full moon. So now say it's now the 6th. So around the 7th, 8th, 9th, those energies are going to slowly dissipate. So don't think it's strange if you're feeling attacked for about 10 days, because that's the intention. Is they put the attack out about 4 or 5 days before the full moon, hoping that on the 2 days of the full moon, that's when it's going to have its most potency. And then of course it doesn't. So then you have to wait for it to fall down, and it does. It falls down maybe 3 days after. So the entire process lasts, I'd say, about 7 to 10 days, depending on the moon cycle, the attack, things like that, right? And also what you're doing at the time too. So there's that. And then of course they repeat the same method come the new moon. So every month we have, of course, a full moon and a new moon, right? And then the waxing and waning cycles. During the waxing and waning cycles, it's not as strong of an attack because they don't have the quote unquote power of the full and the new moon to work with. But why you can feel attacked 80% of a month is because, like I said, so say if on the full moon is on the 5th, they'll launch the attack, say on the 1st. Then that attack goes away on the 8th or 9th. So now that's been almost 10 days. Then you're okay for a week. Now the new moon's coming up, say on the 16th of the month. They'll put it out again on, say, like the 12th. So you've just came down from the last one, had a 4-day break or whatever. They've put out the second one on the new moon now. Then you have to, same thing, repeat, wait for the new moon to pass. Then it goes down. So now the new moon attack is over by the 21st. But now the full moon for the next month is coming up, say on the 30th, just say. So now you have to wait now you're good for another 7 days. Now the second one's been, so that's why you can feel an ebb and a flow with the attacks, where like it's like the Lord has showed me like it's like a rolling a boulder uphill to its climax, right? And then it falling right back downhill really fast. So there's like a slow build up to it, and then once it hits and you're up there, then you just let it go and whew, down it goes and it's over with, right? So that's kind of how he's shown it to me, as like to describe it, as like it will be like it's leading up to it, then it's at its top, and then all of a sudden down it goes, because like I said, it doesn't work, and then it falls and then goes away. Then you're clear sales for about, I'd say, a week, and then all of a sudden here comes the second attack, the second wave, same thing goes, and then you're good for another week, and then here comes the next attack, and etc., right? That's because we have the full moon, and then about approximately 2-3 weeks later-ish, we have the new moon, right? And it just keeps cycling round and round. So every single month, you're going to be guaranteed to be attacked at least 2 times. You're probably attacked on the in-between, but where you're noticing a pattern, just check and see if that pattern of when so is around the full moon and new moon cycles. And I guarantee you it's either 3 days before or 3 days after, or specifically during, that you're noticing this. So anyways, he just wanted me to make that as a side note, just to be aware. So on when you notice that full moon and new moon coming up, that's when he wants you to maybe fast, or maybe pray throughout all the day, pray without ceasing, right? Or maybe instead of reading the word for a half hour, read it for an hour. You know what I'm saying? Things like that. And also, of course, just be very, very aware and mindful during that little time frame of 5 days, 2 days before, 2 days during, 2 days after ish, 5, 6, 7 days, somewhere in there, of if you're committing these 7 deadly sins and like what you're doing at that time. Okay. Cause I'm going to get into that part next of what that goes into. So anyways, these are and this video could take a long time, but I've made cause I got a page here of 10 different notes of when the enemy attacks you even stronger. So I'm just going to go over them very briefly just to speed things up. So, I wrote down, when you pray for sinners to be saved and delivered, that's when he's going to attack you stronger. When you pray for your enemies, for same thing, for them to be saved and delivered, he will attack you stronger, because the prayers of a righteous man availeth much, and he knows that. So therefore, it's one thing that you're praying for yourself, that's bad enough, but now he knows that you're trying to pray for his people, like his followers. He doesn't want you saved, let alone them. He's already lost you. He doesn't want to lose them too. So if you're righteous and you're praying for their salvation, there's a good chance that could happen. So he will attack you even stronger to get you down so that you stop praying for their salvation, right? But the Lord wants you to pray for your enemies and for the wickedness of the world and the unrighteous and the people that go against you, right? So it doesn't matter. You will be attacked for doing so, but you be obedient to the Lord and you pray for these people anyways. But yeah, he just wants to mention that don't be surprised if you start to pray for your enemies or the wicked of the world, or say that coworker at work that, you can tell has demons on them or something, or your spouse or whatever, and you're trying to pray for their salvation, you will be attacked extra when you do that. Number 2, when you're fasting. So of course, we all know the story in the Bible where Jesus was fasting for the 40 days and 40 nights, right? And when he was done the fast, that's when Satan was right there waiting, like, oh, here I am. The temptation's going to get him. His resistance is low because he's been fasting, and Satan knew. So therefore, that's the time he knows you're kind of at your weaker time and more so likely to go in your flesh is when you've been fasting. So don't think it's strange if you're fasting, which you want to do too, because that's again obedience to the Lord. But if you're fasting and you're feeling more attacked, and you might stop your fast and think, well, this isn't working. I'm being attacked more today on Wednesday when I'm fasting than I was on Monday. Yeah, keep going. You're doing right. Stay strong. It's because Satan doesn't want you fasting. So therefore, he's just up the ante. So just ignore him. Number 3, when you first start reading the Bible and or attending church services. So if you've already went through your attacks and you've been attending, even if it's online church, but church services on Sundays for quite a while now, you've been in your word daily for quite a while now, you may not experience as much attack if you're seasoned in doing those things. But if you're new to the faith and you have just recently started attending some sort of church services on Sundays, whether online or in physical building, or if you've just started reading your Bible, don't be surprised if you're attacked more during those times, of course, right? Number 4, when you're giving or acting more charitable. So when you're giving, like trying to help the homeless or help the needy, or even just through little monetary donations, if you're going to church, if you're donating, like sowing and tithing, things like that, don't be surprised if you're attacked more during that time, because, of course, he doesn't want you doing that neither. So don't not give. Of course, Jesus wants you to give. That's the whole part of it. But don't be surprised if you're attacked more during giving. Don't give up on giving, as like the Bible says, don't give up on being good and righteous and doing good things, because you will reap a harvest in time. So that's the same thing. Satan knows that you're going to reap a harvest for what you're doing, so he's trying to stop you from giving. Okay, so just again, ignore him. When you're giving up your sins or addictions or turning over a new leaf. So if, again, some of these are more for those who are new to the walk and new to the Christian journey. Because some people that are seasoned have already went through this, or they're aware of these things. But the Lord, I think, knows that someone may come across this video who either isn't aware or maybe is new to the faith. So he wants this to register for you, right? So that like, hey, if you're giving up your sins and trying to stop your addictions and trying to turn a new page and start afresh and walk with the Lord, yes, you are going to be attacked more for doing that, right? But again, don't get weary in doing good. That's you're doing the right thing, and stay strong, right? And for anyone who is new to the faith and struggling with some of these things, like you're trying to fast and you're being attacked, or you're trying to read the Bible or go to church and you're being attacked, or you're trying to stop your sinful ways and give up your addictions, etc., and trying to be a new person, you're being attacked, please don't hesitate to comment on the video, and I will pray for you, okay? And you don't even need to go into a whole thing if you don't want to. Just simply say, please pray for me, I need prayer, or something like that, and I will pray for you, okay? Just so that we can keep you going. Next, when you reconcile with someone who's in the world. So say there's a prodigal person, right? Whether it be your child or your spouse or an old friend or something, and you're a believer, you now walk with the Lord, but they don't, and that they're still in the world. If maybe you went through some separation time and the Lord was prompting you to reach out to them, to check on them, maybe to see how they're doing so you could pray for them, some sort of a olive branch between the two of you, whether that be communication or something, Satan's going to attack you just for doing that, because he wants you to just leave them alone in their sins, just let them carry on sinning and being stuck in life. Don't you dare come along and try to pray for them or try to lend, your godly nature to them, so don't be surprised if because it's entirely possible to have the Lord put it on your heart to reach out to someone or reconcile to someone, maybe in intentions to forgive, right? To mend fences, whatever it may be. And then all of a sudden you're feeling attacked. So then you may think, oh, wait, put on the brakes. Maybe that wasn't the Lord that told me to do that. Maybe that was Satan. Well, it's possible. However, if you pray the Lord for confirmation, he will let you know. But it is entirely possible for the Lord to have asked you to do that, and therefore you need to be obedient to do so. But Satan doesn't want you doing that, because there's a chance you could save that person, which is what the Lord wants. But of course, Satan doesn't want that. So he's going to try to attack you to hinder you from doing such, right? So don't be surprised if you're trying to reconcile as per the Lord's instructions and Satan's trying to thwart that attempt, because that's what he does. When your blessings are on the way. So whatever blessings God may have in store for you, whether it's spiritual blessings, financial blessings. Even your mental health healing is a blessing. A physical ailment, say you've been, your body's been hurting for say a month, and all of a sudden you start to feel better miraculously within a week. Those aches and pains are gone. I'm just using an example. Or say you've been sick with some sort of, say like, some sort of pneumonia or something like that. And now all of a sudden within a day or two, you're breathing, things are just your complete 180 turnaround, right? There's various blessings that the Lord gives us. You and that prodigal have been at odds for X amount of time. And now you're starting to kind of see the light where maybe you can, they're reaching out, you're reaching out, things are starting to mend between you both. These are blessings from the Lord, and they come in several different ways, forms, and fashions. When these things are coming in for you or are already happening, Satan's going to try to attack because he wants to try to thwart those blessings, right? Next, when God levels up your spiritual gifts. So and this is kind of off the last one, but yes, another blessing that the Lord will give you is he will level up your spiritual gifts. So if you are already aware of your spiritual gifts, he will just increase them and make them stronger, or increase your clarity or your discernment or something like that. Your intentions, your focus, your obedience. But with those who may be new to the walk, maybe you don't know that you have spiritual gifts, but you do, and he's revealing that to you. So whenever there's this revealing or unveiling of your spiritual gifts, that's a time when Satan wants to attack as well, of course, right? Because perhaps if you're starting to embark on, hey, these are my spiritual gifts, and you're attacked, then his hopes is that he can get you to walk away from that and be like, oh, wait, I'm, that's not a spiritual gift, that's demons, and try to label it as something other than what it really is, which is a gift from the Lord. Next here we have when you start preaching or ministering to others, example, a YouTube channel or social media platform. Yeah, so like I've mentioned it on past videos, but for me, one of the reasons I didn't feel ready to put out words like this is because I was under so much attack for so long, and I knew, and the Lord let me know in advance that, yes, Amanda, once you start making your words, you're going to be attacked even more than you already are, because think about it. If you're attacked just knowing this stuff, what do you think is going to happen if you're trying to let everyone else know about this stuff? So I had to be prepared, be prepared like Esther, and wait and everything for the right time, right? Because how can you make a baby run when they've just started crawling? It's not possible. You have to wait until their leg muscles have advanced to where they can do that, right? It's the same thing. The Lord has to wait until your spiritual muscles have strengthened enough to where you are able to go from student to teacher type of a thing. And you're always the student, always. But you know what I mean, where you're able to kind of bypass the attacks enough to be able to talk about it. Because yes, so if you've started a social media channel, doesn't matter, TikTok, whatever it may be, but some sort of a social media platform where on it you are ministering to others, kind of like how I am on this channel and others do on YouTube, don't be surprised that you'll be attacked. And that's kind of why the Lord will, if your spiritual gifts are to be preaching and teaching, he will wait until you are more advanced before he allows you to step out in that, right? Just simply for the fact of how strong the attacks are going to get, right? So there's that. And then the last one I wrote is when you start to truly forgive those who have trespassed against you. So yeah, that's another time too. Is so say you've been sitting for, it could be weeks, could be months, could be years, in some sort of unforgiveness for whoever, whatever, whenever, right? If Satan starts to smell, because I don't know what other word to say, but smell that you're starting to forgive those worldly people that are still wicked. Maybe they are still doing wicked things, or maybe they're still going against you, or maybe they've stopped going against you, but they haven't apologized or acknowledged that they went against you, anything like that. When you start to truly forgive yourself for the situations you put yourself in, and others for the things that they themselves have done to you. Satan will try to attack you, and that process, say forgiving people, could take 2 months, just say, for you, okay? That process, don't be surprised if that process ends up taking 6 or 7, say. That's because the whole time that you were trying to forgive, Satan was trying to stop you from forgiving. Because once you forgive, you become free, right? And you're able to take in more of the Lord's glory and his love and mercy, and work more on your spiritual gifts and give to others and be more charitable and things like that. And he doesn't want that. So therefore, if he can keep you in unforgiveness, not only does it keep your vibration low, but it also keeps you further away from the Lord, which of course he wants. And if you were to pass away without having done the forgiveness part, he knows there's a chance you may not go to heaven. So there's many reasons why Satan does these attacks in these various areas I spoke about, and why he doesn't want you to forgive. Because it lets the Lord in, and it lets you and that other party off the hook. And Satan doesn't want that. He wants you all to feel sad, angry, depressed, frustrated, all the crappy things, because that's when he can do his best work. So anyways, moving on, because this video is already 26 minutes and I haven't gotten to the 7 deadly sins yet. Oh no. Let me just see. Did I read all that? Okay, yeah. Okay, I think I'm gonna have to make a second video because I just don't want this one to be too long. Well, okay, actually, those who are still listening, I'm gonna keep going. So now we're going to go into the 7 deadly sins, and then I have another part to this one that I think I'll make after, because I have a whole other page of things written down as well aside from this, and I just don't want it to be too long. So we'll just quickly go over the 7 deadly sins, and then maybe I will talk more about my other information on another video. But anyways, I'm rambling. Okay, so the 7 deadly sins are sloth, greed, gluttony, pride, envy, wrath, and lust. Okay, so why this matters is because the Lord is giving me information here about ways the enemy attacks you, and that he uses these 7 deadly sins as his template and guide as to how he goes about it. So as I was saying, sloth would be more like laziness and just kind of letting life pass you by. So if you're on YouTube, social media all day long, or you're video gaming all day or things like that, that could be considered a form of sloth. Greed is where we want more of whatever we already have, right? So to be greedy, and again, I'm just going to quickly say disclaimer, of course, a lot of people already know about these 7 deadly sins, right? But there must be some relevance to it because the Lord is asking me to talk about these. So maybe there's followers that are sinning in these ways, or people that'll be new to the faith that will come across these to be aware. But anyway, so greed is where we want more of what we already have. So say if you already have like health and you're getting by financially, you have a nice home, you have a good job, and you're not satisfied. You somehow want more, like, yeah, my job pays good, but I think I could get more money. Or yeah, my spouse or my partner's great, but I think I could have a better one, right? Where you're wanting more than what you already have. Or say you're willing to, like those who maybe are living a good life and they're receiving their money, their paychecks in a righteous fashion, they may come across an opportunity offered by Satan where he's saying, hey, just do these crimes or do these illegal things or ill-gotten gains to where you can receive more money or whatever. Of course, as a Christian, you should be turning away from that, even if it means having less, right? But he's saying, like, there are some, and in the church, that are willing to go down that unrighteous route just to have more, right? More money, more power, more notoriety, more attention, things like that. Just always wanting more, right? And then that kind of leads also into gluttony, because gluttony is also, the Lord's always showed it to me with food, like being overeating is gluttony, but just an overindulgence in anything, television, social media, like I said, wanting followers, attention, likes, just more clothes, more everything, especially material possessions. That is all forms of gluttony, right? Where you can't get enough. Pride, where you're just like, all trying to put on airs, or all, like say you're wrong and you won't apologize, that's pride. Or say if you are having a hard time and you really need some help, whether it be financial, mental, whatever, spiritual, you need some help, you truly do, but you act like you don't, you're putting on airs, that's pride. Or say that you're trying to glorify yourself or make it like the things that the Lord has done for you, you've done, you're taking the glory or the accolades for that, that's pride. Even he's saying that men and women, but women especially, have to be careful, because when you're spending 3 hours on your makeup, your outfit, you're dropping $500 on the dress, things like that, that's all a form of pride. You're idolizing yourself. You're trying to make yourself, look better than you truly do, because, how do you look without all the makeup and all the fake lashes and, lip plumper and lip filler and stuff like that, right? The only reason why you would do that is because of a sense of pride. So just be careful. We always want to be humble, right? Envy, where you're envious of what others have, right? Envious of things you don't have. And basically where you're like coveting what other people have, which is also a sin to covet, it's one of the 10 commandments says to not covet. But that's they fall kind of hand in hand together. So, one of the 10 commandments says, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's, whatever your neighbor has. But then one of the 7 deadly sins is envy. So a lot of times envy and coveting can go together, where, you're envious of that woman's husband and her relationship with him. Well, that's coveting, because you want that for yourself. You want, whether it be that partner, or you just want your relationship with your partner to be similar to their relationship, you see, or say you just bought a brand new vehicle and it's great, it's wonderful, but then your family member buys a new vehicle and you feel like their vehicle is better than yours. Well, in that case, you're being greedy, and in that case, you're falling into pride because you want to look better or something. You're also envious of the fact that they have now a better vehicle than what you had, and you think that you need to be the top dog, so therefore the pride again. But then your vehicle isn't good enough, you like theirs better or want theirs too, now it's gluttony. So so just in one little thing of that scenario, like I said, of your neighbor or family member having something that you don't have, now you've just committed like 3 or 4 of the 7 deadly sins in one go, right? So we got to be careful for envy. You need to be grateful for what you have and appreciate what you have. We all always want and wish that we could have something more, right? But like I say, you have to be careful, because that can lead into greed, that can lead into envy, and these are all sins. So like I said, we are guilty of committing these sins, whether we realize it or not. And that's why the Lord's wanted me to point these out, is so that we can be repentant on these, right? Because we all can fall into being prideful. We all can fall into being envious or greedy, right? So and then the 6th one is wrath. So where you're taking it upon yourself to bring like revenge or judgment onto somebody else. You're basically putting, how there's God's wrath. You're trying to play God in a way by putting your wrath on someone, like, well, I'm just going to go do this then, or now I'm against this person, and now you're thinking bad things towards them, whatever. You're putting wrath on that person, right? And you will be judged for that. Then the last one is lust. So we know that I'd say out of all these, lust and greed are probably the top, or maybe pride too, but are the top 2 and 3 that we face on a daily basis. As we know, lust causes people to cheat and commit adultery. And again, the lust can cause you to be envious. The lust can cause you to covet, that you want your friend's husband or your friend's wife, or, you're coveting your friend's house or their relationship, things like that. It can also fall into pride and greed, right? So the Lord wants me to point out how these sins are sins on their own. But the other reason why they're so deadly is because if you commit gluttony where you're eating too much, it'll lead into sloth where you're just being lazy and laying around, right? So he's saying a lot of these sins work part and parcel with each other. It's difficult to just have pride and not have any envy or any wrath, attached. It's difficult to have lust and not have any pride or gluttony or envy attached, right? So that's the other thing that he's saying, these sins can snowball into each other, where we start with one and next thing we've taken on 2 or 3, and now we've taken on 4 or 5, and you can get yourself into situations where, you're committing all 7 of these on a daily, regular basis, right? Or weekly basis. So he's wanting people to be aware that these are the 7 deadly sins, and that whether you're a believer or a non-believer, there's a good chance you're committing these sins on a regular basis, and that it's very easy to fall into these sins, and that these sins are very, very prevalent in our world today, and they're just going to get more and more prevalent as time goes by, and that we need to be aware of repenting for them. It's not a judgment call. I'm guilty of some of these sins, so are you, so is everyone, right? But he just wants us to be aware, whether we are followers or of the Lord or not, that we know what these are, right? So, and then he just wants me to quickly touch on, because like I said, I'm going to go into the other part in a different video, but the opposite of these, the 7 heavenly virtues. So those were the 7 deadly sins from Satan. And Satan uses those sins to try to attack you. So if he can get you into pride, he can attack you. If he can get you into envy or greed or gluttony, he can attack you. So every day he's trying to get believers and unbelievers into these 7 deadly sins. Because if he has you being prideful or envious or lustful, he is then able to it opens the door to him, right? So he can do more stuff. Then if that time frame falls on when it's a full moon or a new moon, or like I was mentioning, a harvest time as in the Hebrew calendar, then now what, right? Now he's really got everything set up. So this is just kind of another part into showing how the enemy moves, right? How he does things behind the scenes and how he can get you. Because the Lord's told me there's people that are frustrated because they're like, well, Lord, I've stopped my addictions. I pray to you. I listen to church. I go to church, listen online, whatever it may be. I do church. I read my Bible, things like that. But yet, and still, I'm still attacked. Well, could it possibly be that maybe you are guilty of some of these 7 deadly sins, even just one of them? And if you have you repented for this infraction specifically, So that's kind of what he's saying, because no matter how good those things are, and they are, if you are performing these 7 deadly sins, or you have performed them and haven't repented for them specifically, then there is still that open door, right? Whether you realize it or not. So maybe that's what could be hindering some people. So that could be why he's wanting me to put this out, to kind of help in that way. So going back to the 7 heavenly virtues. Now, if you practice these 7 things, you stop those 7 deadly sins and you practice these 7 things, this will definitely help you get closer with the Lord, along with reading the word, prayer, and attending church, etc., etc. So we have chastity, temperance, charity, diligence, patience, kindness, humility. So these are kind of like the opposite of the 7 deadly sins, not directly, but they're just, you know, the way that the Lord, like, you'll see heaven if you practice these. If you don't do the 7 deadly sins and you practice these 7 heavenly virtues instead, you will see heaven. You also will be more attacked because Satan wants you in those 7 deadly sins and not in these heavenly virtues. And he's also going to use the time frames I've listed as opportunities to attack, right? So anyway, I hope that this video can help somebody. I apologize for it being so long. Stay tuned for the next word that I put out, and that one's going to be about, the ways that the enemy attacks you. Yeah, so I did the times that the enemy attacks you stronger, and then I'm going to go on about the ways that the enemy attacks you, the various different ways. And I think that video will resonate for some too. So I apologize that it's so all over the place. I thought I'd have time for all 3 papers, but I don't. I only have enough time for 2. So I'll make another video about the other one, and I hope you can tune into that one, and I hope it blesses you. I hope this helps someone, and God bless.